here at the John Wick Training Center where we're learning how to shoot. Take it away, Tony. The story opens with John preparing coffee for himself in a very modern home in suburban New Jersey. This is the life he built with his wife Helen after getting out from under the table 4 years earlier. They're a simple couple who chose the Krupp's XP 6040 combination coffee brewer and espresso machine for their kitchen. The 6040 holds 1.6 quarts of water and has a stated 10-cup capacity that can either use pods or ground coffee to make espresso in pressurized baskets. It's not the greatest coffee of brewers, but its duality underscores the two worlds of John Wick. Judging by the mugs, John and Helen enjoy brewed coffee together and seem to use it daily. But sadly, Helen is gone after succumbing to some unknown disease, and it's her funeral. As a parting gift, she sends Daisy to accompany the grieving John. I wonder what coffee they use in the brewer, but I'm guessing it's the Lavazza Super Crema since it's one of the most popular coffees in the world that can be used for both brewed coffee and espresso for visiting European types. More on that later. I would have expected John to go on living a quiet life drinking coffee had it not been for that knucklehead Yosef Tarasov who decided that he must have John's 1969 Boss 429 Mustang. He beats him up and kills Daisy in the process.
John is a man of focus, commitment, sheer will.
That's Viggo, who knows what John is capable of and that Yosef has let loose the devil himself. We see the 6040 again when Viggo's men try to put an end to Wick. They are unsuccessful. Then there's Marcus, a friend of John, demonstrating that he's not a coffee guy but instead a tree-hugging, crunchy green, fresh juice drinking kind of assassin. Disappointing. As the movie progresses and Yosef is trying to remain hidden from the Baba Yaga, we see his guards drinking from coffee cups. But since they're Russian, we can only presume they're actually drinking Russian standard. They won't last long anyway. We see our trusty 6040 again in Chapter 2 after John has recovered his car and Santino de Antonio has come to visit. Being a hospitable man, John makes Santino a coffee. This time, it's espresso. Italians and European types find American coffee to be déclassé for their genteel taste, and it's a reminder that John walks between two coffees. No doubt, Santino prefers light blonde and bland espresso. Santino wants John to kill his sister Gianna so he can take over the family business. John declines. Santino insists with his marker. John still declines. Like a petulant child, Santino blows up John's house along with all of Helen's possessions and our trusty 6040. Bye-bye, 6040. You know he's gonna die now. On a rooftop, we find John consulting with old friend Winston Scott, manager of the Continental Hotel. Winston's not the typical American. Instead, he sees himself as more of a refined kind of gentleman, the kind that drinks tea like civilized people from the Royal Doulton Countess collection. The Countess collection was discontinued in 2016, but it still can be found online. While checking into the Continental room, John is watched over by Aries, Santino's mute bodyguard, who is sipping bagged tea from a paper cup, underscoring the difference between those in service and those in management. Back in New York, after seeking assistance from the Bowery King, we can spy a set of gold cups and coffee pot in the background. Could these be the carat gold coffee cups from Philippe de Chaulier? Let me know in the comments what you think. We're not a movie recap channel, but I can't help but enjoy the capping of Santino de Antonio. See? I told you so. Fast forward a few hours into Chapter 3, and John has made his way to Casablanca with a $14 million bounty over his head. Disappointingly, there's very little coffee being drank in Morocco. The three assassins who pick up his trail drink green tea with mint. Perhaps they should have chosen coffee. Honoring her marker, Sophia takes John to see Baradas at his Casbah. Again, no coffee. Baradas has whiskey. In fact, there's so much whiskey poured throughout this series, perhaps I should have been a whiskey blogger. The thing about coffee is that it can have a calming effect. Sharing coffee allows people to sit back, slow down, and exchange ideas.
The commerce of relationships.
But there's no coffee here. just tea and whiskey. Perhaps if Barada had coffee, he wouldn't have shot Sophia's dog, had his crew slaughtered, and then suffered a most undignified punishment.
Go to the edge of the desert, look up.
The elder offers John tea, which is most unusual since Bedouin cultures typically offer coffee or qahwa arabiya to their guests. To return and keep his memory of Helen alive, John pledges fealty to the high table. A lot more happens, but we end up back on the rooftop of the continent with a
Parlay.
The adjudicator and Winston share a tea from the same Royal Doulton Countess set as before, all before shooting John off the roof. After disappearing into the shadows at the end of Chapter 3, John emerges in Chapter 4 back in the desert to speak with the new welder about their lack of coffee service. Halas, he should have offered coffee. In New York City, as the Marquis Vincent de Gramont decides the fate of the New York Continental, he sips espresso with sugar from these stylish cups. The handles remind me of the cups from Vista Alegre, but I have been unable to identify these cups. If you know, please let me know in the comments. In Osaka, John drinks tea with his friend Shimazu Koji with a pot that looks like the Sarah Collage cast iron pot.
Have you given any thought to where this ends?
It ends with more whiskey. Quite a lot happens between coffees, including a few more whiskeys, but that's not important. When we get back to Winston in the museum, the Marquis has his own personal La San Marco Top 80 Preciosa 2-group espresso machine. After all this time, we're finally getting a proper espresso machine, this time in gold with a winged lion. That Marquis, he's so Euro. I can't wait to see him get his due, especially for taking out Charon. After the Marquis accepts John's challenge to a duel, he ups the bounty, encouraging all of Paris to descend upon Wick, including those guys sipping espresso at the Café by the Arc. But no matter, they lose. After that, nothing much happens. No one drinks coffee, and the duel at the Sakako begins.
Those who cling to death live.
And that's a wrap for the Marquis. At the end of the movie, we have learned that John has understood the need for 2 coffees, and that he will once again share drip brewed coffee with Helen.